morning, Internet. I'm your host, RJ Corwin, and this is Hacking with RJ. Last time we gave what's becoming my favorite vibe coding test to GPT-5, the newly released OpenAI model, not open model. They did release an open model, a waste model. Haven't tested that yet. But I did test in Cursor their new GPT-5 model with our Mystery AI Theater, the AI inspired version of your own Mystery Science Theater 3000. You can be your own Mystery Science Theater 3000, the subject, the movie subject, where they make fun of you. And I was impressed. One-shotted from a very not very specific spec. It had some specifics. I went back later and read, oh yes, that's right, I did give it some simple directions as far as how to approach it in a basic way. For example, the idea of there's two robots sitting in a theater watching your screen. To simplify things, I had it in one chat completion give us the commentary from two robots. So so it's doesn't have to be two different processes. It's just at an interval, send a screenshot or send a recorded image of the canvas of the screen capture over to the AI to do a chat completion and encapsulate a viewer 1 XML tag, viewer 2 tags, what the commentary would be shown on the screen. And GPT-5 one-shotted that in Cursor quite well. It was the first time I've seen that done with a model in Cursor. Prior Claude Code using probably Sonnet, probably not Opus, 3.5. Got it to the point where it had the UI wired up and was giving us static commentary. Hadn't wired in a chat client yet. And so with GPT-5, I was actually able to add an environment variable file and set my OpenAI key in. As soon as I figured out which model to use, that my account had access to, I was off to the races. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. I've been recently, I alluded in the last podcast, or last stream, that I have a more ideal setup for this kind of use case. I would rather use something that was more fully featured, like a chat room, that was friendly for bots to join, and not try to reinvent the wheel. And I've been thinking about how cool it would be if you had a chat room, a chat platform where bots could share capabilities inspired by MCP, so that essentially they could treat each other like MCP servers, and literally support that protocol, the MCP protocol, just using structured JSON for messages to each other, on top of an actual chat app, enabling collaboration between bots and humans, human in the loop stuff. Anyways, that's the goal, but I have found that sometimes it's good to do it the wrong way a few times. And with coding, and when I say wrong way, I mean do it a few, challenge your assumptions about complexity that you might aspire to by actually doing it in a more simple way, to really test those assumptions of why are we making it so complicated? What I'm talking about, a chat platform with dynamic message formatting to support tool calling between agents. I think that can to unlock a lot of cool use cases, but I want to learn some lessons first. And with modern coding tools, AMI models, it makes it so cheap to just try things. So let's learn some lessons. But this time, we're not going to just give it a prompt. This time, we're going to do a little bit of spectrum. So what learn some things. I have an hour to do this stream. I might not be able to get through the whole thing, so it's going to be a multi-stream. But let's get started. Let's use a spec. I've been working on a spec template. rjcorwin/spec template on github.com. And the idea behind this spec template approach, there's a lot of folks have very similar ideas around how to do this. This is just my take. Is you start off with when we look at the templates in here. You start off with a start off with a requirements doc. And this is just like what you want to accomplish. Hopes and dreams. My original template was just like the hopes and dreams section in the repo. And then you start working with the AI to come up with a design. Oh, excuse me, I'm missing a step. Before you jump to the design, do an investigation to learn all the things. Given these requirements, what are the technologies you might have to use? What are some patterns that you might want to follow? And investigate that. Get that all into an investigation file. In the case where you are working within an existing code base, this is super handy for compressing context. So like, there's a bunch of different components that you need to take into account on a project that a code base you're already working in. If an agent is just like learning those on the fly, it may or may not learn those things it needs to learn. And they have to learn by doing, which is waste a bunch of time going down some not so great paths. And not to mention like doing a design without taking into account the system architecture. So investigation really in an existing code base is about looking at the existing architecture that's going to be relevant to your requirements, compressing that down, have the AI read the code, compress that down into an investigation file. And then you can include that in context. That's your compressed context that you can then add to your context window when having the agent run and actually start the design. And possibly also way through development. So you end up with an investigation doc, which leads to a design doc. And as you go through design, there's probably a bunch of decisions that need to be made. You don't want to just one-shot the design and be like, thank you, AI. You want the AI to give you options. And when it identifies or you identify options, then you come up with these decision records. And you're going to have a lot of decision records as you go through the life cycle of the project. And so it's good. You're going to come up with decisions during the initial design phase, and you're going to come up with after the design phase, then you get into implementation in your to-do and do file, where you lay out all what you think you're going to have to do. You might be in the middle of something in your to-do, in your implementation phase, and realize, oh, there's another decision we have to make, and you create another decision record. Inside a decision record, you prompt the AI model to list out all the potential options, pros and cons of each, and you, the human, decide what the direction is going to be. Oftentimes, I've been working a lot with Mod 4 Sonnet lately, and it's pretty good about coming up with those options, pros and cons, and making a pretty decent suggestion. I go with Sonnet suggestion about 75% of the time in my experience of working with it for a few weeks. So yeah, it makes some good calls. All right, so let's get started. I am going to, here's our project that we were working on last time. And this is going to be V2. So I'm going to make, one option I was considering going into this was a refactor. But I don't even want to bother with that. I want to start fresh. We're going to do design. This is like one of my recent takeaways is because code is so cheap now, refactoring especially if you're at the beginning of a project, when you're exploring ideas, even if you have an existing project, just starting fresh and not refactoring from where we came from. Like, bring the lessons with you. Reference the design that you did before, but iterate on the design doc. Don't iterate on the code. The design doc is essentially the source code these days, and the code is just a reflection of implementation. So let's create a new directory: mystery AI theater 1000. Actually, you know what? Huh? I'm not getting technically. That's weird. So we're gonna use the spec that I've been working on. So I'm gonna tone it down, and I think the way that I want my spec template to work is that it can either be the root of the repository, or it is a folder itself. This round I'm gonna go with it's the root of the repository. So I'm gonna literally clone it and then remove the git directory. It. All right, and let's open up a new cursor window where this is the root. All right, so I don't. Oh wait, you know what? I'm not following my own directions. I was supposed to just copy the templates folder to my root directory. Back up. And get in it. And my mic up. Hopefully you all heard everything I was saying before. All right. So now in the root, we have, I have an arrow tool on. Use draw tool, there we go. We've got our to-dos, readmes, investigation, requirements, yada, yada, yada. And decision template stuff. I'm gonna remove, I'll leave the example. We'll see how it goes. This ADR folder is cruft at this point. I just need to delete that. All right. And did I get the... There is a very important part of this spec approach. Oh, I didn't get the cursor. Where am I? Okay, yeah. See this cursor folder? All right, I need to reconcile that. This cursor folder should be inside of the template. So I'm going to copy the spec templates cursor folder to here. And before I totally forget about this, let's fix it for future us. Cool. If I can spell commit right. All right. We're back in our Mystery AI Theater 3000 v2 directory. And we will add... I'm in a fresh repo. Yep, I'm not git init. Oh, I said log and it says I don't have any commits yet. Okay, great. This is our first. Added spec template. Okay. Let's kick this off. We are going to feed it a prompt and the original spec and talk about the changes that we want that are different. Let's copy that original prompt over, or original spec. We'll call it spec v1. And let's copy over the initial prompt as initial prompt v1.md. Okay. And let's create an actual initial prompt. And get started. All right. We're going to create a v2 of a spec /app we've created before. See initial prompt v1.md and spec v1.md for original inspiration. We're going to start with the requirements doc. Let's update it with inspired by v1, but with some changes. First off, we're going to drop that idea of two of the esteemed viewers in one completion. We actually want them to be separate processes. We want an actual, very basic chat server that they are interacting with, that we're all joining, and that they're joining. Yeah. So the user, the human user, sharing the screen, the esteemed viewers They are all going to be separate entities joining a basic chat server. Each their own process, with the chat server separate. The human user uses a client that we can assume is a web app. But not the chat server itself. The esteemed viewers are headless. Agents that log into the chat server and perform their snarky duties. Definitely one of the decisions we'll want to explore is if we want to roll our own very basic chat server or use something off the shelf that either covers full chat use cases or some pub sub thing. Let's keep the back end of the chat server in Go. The humans back end also in Go. But explore other languages for the esteemed viewers, as they will make interesting. Well, actually, if I do multiple languages, then I'll have to like iterate on an SDK in multiple languages. I was thinking it'd be nice to have, you know, a JavaScript example and a Python example. Here's an area where we can definitely try to limit scope a little bit. This would be like a v3. The agents in Go as well. Other requirements. Yeah, I think that's the big change. Is instead of like a toy app, I mean, this is still going to be a bit of a toy, but instead of a super simplified, this looks like a chat, but it's not. Oh, don't forget, the human is joining the chat, so they can send messages as well. Also, I think that's enough. Yeah, so I'm really leaning into the AI to write the requirements doc here. And let's see how well, so this will be an experiment in the spec template. Let's see how well it goes. Doing a mic test. Okay, just checking my levels. I have 35 minutes. It's reading the existing V1 docs. I hope it doesn't get confused thinking requirements. Did I mention this was a template we're working in? I guess my template needs a template for the initial prompt to get things started. And that initial prompt needs to be something you actually write. But include some key phrases. Says I'm going to replace requirements MD with a concrete V2 requirements doc that reflects a new multi-process chat architecture. Separate Go chat server, Go human backend, Go headless agents, and a web client. Plus defined build versus buy decision with criteria, function, non-functional requirements, user stories, and milestones. Let's check my requirements template. If I remember correctly, yeah, I need to get rid of this. That where we're like putting epics into the requirements docs, that's jumping ahead too much. And talking about launch plan. I really want this to focus. This is, I think I worked with Claude 4 Sonnet on this. And so of course there's way more here than we need. And really these AIs don't need much to go off of, so it's just encouraging more, dare I say, slop, but really just noise. GPT-5, what will you give us? So in iterating from like spec to spec, I do always see like that AIs will put in these context pieces. Be like, sometimes it'll say like refer to blankety blank in the previous spec, and oftentimes I feel like that's mostly noise. If we look at the cursor directions here, I wonder if I should put in some instructions about when you base a spec on another, best practices for that. It's kind of just riffing. All right, let's read it through. The V2 enables a live show where human host and AI esteemed viewer agents join a shared chat room to deliver real-time humorous commentary. Go-based chat server, backend, blah, 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 blah. Yes. Success metrics. Those are good to have to try to quantify things when you're really, obviously we don't really care in our toy app. Human host, agents, spectator viewers optional. That's an interesting ad. But good, like, I think we don't want to hard code the assumption that the host is the only other, that there's only agents and one host, human host. User personas. Yep. Okay. Requirements. Key decision to explore. Build versus buy. Evaluate implementing a minimal go blah 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 off the show. So they're mentioning getting into the decision that it needs to make a little bit there, but not too much. That's cool. WebSockets, Rubes, authentication, token-based. So at this point, I could be like, hey, one of the decisions we want to make is around authentication and how we do that. Spin up a decision record for that. I don't really care right now. My main focus is like going back to that initial prompt is like learning some lessons from now we have humans and bots in the same chat. All right, now moving on to the human web client plus backend. Yep. Show roles, indicate which agent is speaking, simple controls, mute bot, end show. Acceptance criteria, host can create a room and share the link. Host can send, receive messages, mute an agent. That sounds good because the first implementation from the last stream that I did was it got real loud real quick, and the first change that we vibed was a mute button. One sec, just checking something off screen. Cool. And now the agents. Yep, connects the chat server. Assumes incoming optional external context. And post commentary with rate limiting and cooldowns. That sounds good. We don't want it to just comment aggressively as fast as it possibly can. Bot joins by token, post commentary at a controlled cadence. Bot respects per room, mute. Maybe I should do a decision record for the authentication part, just so it doesn't go down like a super complicated route. Because auth can be as complex as you want it to be. And if it decides, hey, we're gonna do like a full integration with OAuth, so you can log in with any account you want, that'd be a waste of time. We just need like a simple token-based thing. Like all clients connecting could share the same token. It's just like, you know, generate random ID. That's gonna be essentially the ID of the room. That's good enough, you know, with sufficiently randomization, MD5 hash of a bunch of salt. It's good enough. Anyways. Optional context ingestion. What is this optional context ingestion stuff it's thinking about? Let's ask it. Like I have some guesses. Command I to add to context. What is the optional context ingestion that you are thinking about? Use case example. Please don't update docs. Just asking. Out-of-band signals about gameplay session fed to the agent, not regular chat messages, so they make smarter, timely jokes. It's a side channel delivering structured events like player died. OCR saw you died. Interesting. Don't need that because we're going to use a vision model, but you could imagine, for example, there being the side process of the chat server, or something participating on the chat server that's like doing analysis at a faster rate than the vision than the agents can process, because they're going to be processing frames really slowly, like one every 30 seconds. And like, it's awkward because it depends on how long their completion takes, the tokens, before they can start processing another one. Anyways, streaming video to LLMs is not really a thing right now. So having some other thing that's like gathering context, collecting it, or rather spewing context at the agent, and it's able to collect that context for its next completion. That's a decent pattern. But I could see that just being part, not as a side channel, but as part of the chat. This is getting into the end goal, what I was thinking about. Everything a chat message, but threaded, so it's not like flooding. Well, I don't know. I think this is getting too much into the weeds. A good idea for something more complicated, but outside of scope for V2. So, you know, thinking back to what I was thinking about related to, hey, maybe we need to do a decision record for the auth stuff. Like, this is an example where, like, the model's being proactive. I feel like I was hearing I've heard OpenAI folks say multiple times that, like, we want GPT-5 to do what the user asked and go above and beyond when it makes sense. Is this maybe an example of it going above and beyond when it makes sense? I think it makes sense. And I didn't say this scope and nothing else. But yeah, we're gonna nix this for the sake of scope creep. Shall we add a short note in decisions? Sure. Yeah, go ahead and do a brief decision record. Justification for not doing this is keeping it simple for V2. It's a potential V3. Alright. Hopefully they don't get sidetracked with the decision record piece. Where were we? Yeah, okay. So 4 is gone. 4 is now observability and tooling. Yeah, so I definitely have some questions around how we're going to do observability. Like, before I read this, one thing I aspire to in the end goal is for usually observability and the application are two separate things. And I kind of aspire for this paradigm where like the chat app is the observability, and context management happens through the chat app. Anyways, that's future work. But what is it thinking? Centralized structured logging, correlation IDs per message, connections, messages dropped, tracing, span across web client, human chat server, where feasible. I'm just gonna let it do whatever it thinks. I'm not gonna get opinionated about the logging part right now. Well, that's an example of an ADR. When the rubber hits the road, we can explore a decision record for later. All right, dev experience. Local run via Docker Compose. For the chat server, human backend, agents, and web client. I do really like using Docker. Do I want to do that here? Sure. The reason why I hesitated is because making keeping this V2 simple, like having everything in Go, it should run fairly smoothly just on the native machine. And not everyone's native machine, but where we're developing. I'm not trying to make something that's totally portable. But for the sake of like looking at logs and the way that Docker can kind of help organize things, I think I could see an advantage for this. But if you want this deployable and for people to use it around the world, like, or you're working on a team, the Docker is absolutely indispensable. We'll keep this requirement for now. Secondary features, multi-room dashboard for the host. I think we can scrap this. I like this goal of presence, but agreed it's a secondary feature. Per room message retention policy. These secondary features. Not bad, but don't want to get into the weeds on designing them. Let's rename. Let's make that clear. but keep them around for future inspiration. So far, you know, just reflecting on the fact we're using GPT-5, one of the things that OpenAI is excited about is its writing capabilities. I had the day GPT-5 came out, I had some very surprising results with its writing, where Claude 4 Sonnet and Opus would write things in structured lists and paragraphs. I had GPT-5 writing things in very dense paragraphs, no line breaks, and like no lists. I don't know if it was a bug. At first I was like, wow, its style of writing is very I mean, it was good that it was like not overly complicated and flowery and like, you know, but it was also just kind of like hard to read. I don't know if that was a result of the system prompt, or excuse me, the developer prompt that Cursor was putting in there, or maybe it was a system prompt issue over on OpenAI side. But yeah, I'm not seeing that same very dense behavior. Things seem fairly well laid out here, but it could also be that it's I don't know. I don't know what the deal was. All right, put a note here. The following item are inspirational backlog ideas. Sure. This is fluff. But if it puts measuring into place, I don't, you know, I don't hate that. I think this is enough. I'm not gonna run into. I'm not gonna do a. I don't know. I'll do a security decision. Let's do it. I'm not gonna say please follow the template. I'm gonna see if it follows the template. I feel like even a human might get confused. They might think that I'm implying that this is the decision. Oh, I want to make a decision given some options. So now I'm getting a little bit into design. I might be jumping the gun a little bit. All of this reliability stuff is fine. Usability, basic keyboard navigation. Yeah, sure, it sounds good. Yep. All right, user stories. I bet it gets this. Run a show with a human and bots. As a host, I create a room, got a join link for bots and spectators. Room created via REST, links work, tokens issued. As a host, I can send and receive messages in real time. As a host, I can mute, unmute specific bots. Acceptance. Muted bot cannot post until unmuted. UI reflect state. As a Steam viewer agent, I can join a room and post commentary. All right. Here, you know, user experience. So there is important user story here. Post shares the bot join parameters to launch 1 to 2 agents. The design of this, as I'm interested in, because if you start the chat server and the human and the bots at the same time, do you then, how are we going to feed the join link? I'm jumping the gun here. Is I think we should what I like a requirement to be is that they can all join via a join link. Robots, humans, etc. Etc. should be able to join given a join link. No account required. In fact, no accounts in this implementation. Accounts can be ephemeral and but participants should have a way to declare a name. Yeah, okay, it also realized it's going to affect decision record 003 related to security. So this is a good point to put in here. I'm interested to see where it updates in the requirements doc. Let's close this. Don't need that right now. It worked on that earlier. Our agent is still thinking about this one. Something that's always amusing is like the time estimates that AIs put. It's imagining that I am a fully responsible organization that is thinking about what makes sense for their business, and lots of people need input. Maybe that should be part of the spec template, is asking is before the agent should ask, like, hey, what's the team size? Oh, it's just you. Just one person sitting in their basement streaming to the web. Right. All right, we're updating the requirements doc. Changes all over. Let's go to change 1. Message model. Text messages with metadata, room ID, user ID, role, timestamp. Optional minimal history buffer. Last 100 messages per room in memory, Redis backend. Or Redis backend. Yeah, fine. Authentication JWT issued by human backend for web client and for agents. No persistent accounts. Tokens are short-lived and room scoped. Yep. That's good. Join model, no accounts, participants, hosts, join via room, join link. On first connect, they declare display name, which is embedded in the token. My requirements doc is becoming a design doc. Yeah, I think with my spec template, I think I just need to make the requirements section like so dumb and like it's almost like the initial prompt, and a lot of this information just is going to get repeated in the design doc at this point. Okay. Host can create a room, share, join link. Participants can join via link prompted for a display name. Host can send and receive messages and mute an agent. Yep. Connects to the chat server as a bot with a configured persona, consumes incoming messages, post commentary, rate limited cooldowns. Bots joins by using provided room token or by exchanging join link. Yep. Makes sense. Time bound, room scope, keep. I think we're gonna go over that decision record. I don't know. I wonder if it gave us options. Participants then join, open the join link, declare display name, join the room messages flow. Yep. Agent connects using pre-minted token. All right, here's that. We can keep this one, the out of scope stuff. Security. Multi-process setup, go chat server, blah, 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 blah. Keep v2 simple and shippable, role-based, low latency. Decision summary. We will use short-lived JWT access tokens. Okay, we've kind of already read this. I really just wanted to see if it gave us options. Option A is chosen. Close that. Option B. What's our options? External IDP, OIDC for human, client credentials for agents. Use OAuth, Okta, etc. Yeah, exactly. Didn't want to have to go down that road. MTLS between services, opaque session tokens for clients. Mutual TLS between backend and chat server. Clients get opaque tokens mapped on server state. Operationally heavier, doesn't simplify backend WebSocket auth versus JWT. Option A provides the best balance for V2, minimal moving parts, good developer economics, and clear room scoped RBAC without bringing in an IDP or MTLS infrastructure. Yeah, cool. All right. Now, where were we? We were reading these user stories, the user experience, platform and stack, all backend and agents and Go. Phased approach, hardening. Yes, we can do these at a separate phase. Rate limits, reconnection, and basic history. Yeah, so milestone, MVP, room, lifecycle, and auth. Yeah, so work on the server first, this backend chat server. Then work on the web client, human web client. And then build the esteemed viewers agents. Metric logs, Docker compose, local run. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that makes sense to do earlier if we want to start seeing some Hello World stuff. I think this might assume, and I've seen this before, like where it like doesn't actually start the app until everything's all built, and you actually want to kick the tires as you go, before you get too deep into the weeds. Yeah, we're definitely gonna require 2 to 3 Go engineers and 1 front-end engineer part-time. Yes. Optional Redis. Yeah, maybe we'll have a Redis container. We can do in-memory for this. It doesn't matter. Yes, start minimal. Vendor lock-in if using managed pub/sub. Yeah, we'll do our own. Bot spam or runaway loops. Yeah, we'll see. That'll be fun. Let's make sure that this is a good section to definitely get right. It's our glossary. Oh, I am out of time. We're gonna finish this, and then next stream we will get to our design doc. Show/room. That seems confusing. Maybe we should pick one word. I guess we're kind of saying that those rooms are interchangeable. I'm fine with it. This is V2. Again, we're not making it perfect. We're learning lessons. We'll see if this gets awkward. Host, yep. Esteemed viewer, headless spectator viewer who may read and optionally send messages. Yeah. Okay. I think we're good. Was there an ADR? Because one of our next ones here is build versus buy ADR. Yeah, not yet. Okay. So let's write ourselves a note here. Git add, git commit, initial requirements, finished. Next is generating an ADR for build v buy. And that about wraps it up for today. So not as exciting today. Doing spec-driven development rather than just like saying and spray code. That is the vibe coding stuff. And it is, after this process of doing a spec, we will try. We'll try to vibe our way to this level of complexity, and see what GPT-5 can do. But part of this process is just figuring out what you're asking for, and so developing a spec. Even if I asked GPT-5 to make something, I could just totally set it down the wrong path. But who knows? Maybe it can just make some cool decisions. Anyway, what I'm super interested in GPT-5 for is really how well it's going to be able to work inside of software projects that I work in my day job, and its ability to help do spec-driven development and work in existing code bases and things like that. That's where it really counts. So that's where I'm looking for experience. And all that to say, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next stream. I'm RJ Corwin. This is Hacking with RJ. Have a good day.